Hello and welcome back once again to the video game selection series. Today we have the Challenger Series event for the Little Wing 500. Today it'll be 125 laps for these USF 2000 cars. We have 30 games up for the challenge today. Top 4 will move on to the Pro League for the 500 at Indianapolis. Given the points that each of them have, all of them will be in Class D that get promoted from here. And so without any further ado, let's look to the field. Here's the starting lineup, and you can see right here, and then we'll start to walk through the actual grid itself. We have most that are here have competed in one Challenger race before. There are a couple of exceptions, and I'll try to point them out along the way. So with that, let's start moving through the field. On the front row, we have Batman Arkham and StarCraft. Then going back through the other rows, Assassin's Creed, Dwarf Fortress. I'll take this down. Metroid Prime, starting in their first event. Metroid has previously run in a pro race, so they've been up in the Pro Series and been relegated. Metroid Prime and Metroid starting on the third row together. Dragon Quest, Spyro, who was just recently relegated from the Pro Series. Mario Golf making their first start. Crash Bandicoot, the other game, who was relegated from the Pro Series. Wing Commander, Jet Force Gemini, Rock Band, two-time veteran of the Pro Series, but now have been relegated to Challenger, trying to get back in. Warcraft, Earthworm Jim, Mario Tennis making their first start. Lemmings, Octopath Traveler, Wizardry, Rogue, Portal, who was also relegated from the Pro Series at the previous event. Mercenaries, Frostpunk, Animal Well, South Park, Ace Attorney making their first start. Perfect Dark, Rain World, Kid Icarus, and Tokimeki Memorial making their first start. And with that, that is the field that's going to take on the challenge today. Remember, top 4 will move on to the Class D race, actually driving these exact same cars at the next event. However, it's a lot different here at the roughly 1/3 of a mile or 3/8 of a mile oval that we're on today versus the 2.5 mile super speedway at Indianapolis, which we'll see later in May. So we'll pause for a second. Once we get going, we'll take 2 caution laps and then get the race underway. Should be moving momentarily. With this race, 125 laps around this small oval, with them all being the same class, unlike the Pro event, which has multi-classes, I expect this to be a little less chaotic. I do still expect lapped cars to still play a factor, as the course is just not that large. We're getting ready to head out behind the pace car. We will start behind, or watching the leader, StarCraft, and see how this race unfolds at the beginning. we'll keep the coverage near the front, as that's the spots that matter. Top 4 are basically it. Everybody else will just fall back to the back of the queue, and we'll have to try again whenever their time comes up. Getting ready to start 125 laps around here. Top few cars. StarCraft, Batman, Arkham, Assassin's Creed, Dwarf Fortress. They're the ones that will start in those transfer spots. Let's see if they can maintain them through 125 laps. And the green flag is out. Batman Arkham looks like they will lead lap 1. StarCraft staying on the bottom. Right now everybody's minding their business pretty well, although once lap traffic is reached, I think that'll become a different story. Metroid Prime is putting some pressure from row 3 to try to get into a transfer spot. Dwarf Fortress on the top side is feeling a little bit of the pressure. Although the third place car, Assassin's Creed, is holding firm on the inside line. Yeah, and just like that, we've already finished 5 laps. 5 laps finished so quickly. So if it stays under green, this race will finish very fast despite it being a large number of laps. Lap traffic, though, that's where things are going to start playing a role. Once we get to lap traffic, I do want to jump on board the cockpit view for the leaders just to see what it looks like as they're trying to manage that lap traffic. Further back, it appears to be a more single file view. It does look like it flares out maybe middle of the pack, but it does seem like there has been some sorting out of positions that everyone will be starting from here. Just starting lap 10. StarCraft and Batman Arkham are still out front, leading their respective lines. Really not much between them when they get to the line. StarCraft does lead at the end of lap 10. Metroid Prime, I think, is actually starting to make a push for it, and I would say now does have 4th place. So move Metroid Prime up into 4th, move Dwarf Fortress back to 5th. Lap traffic still not in view yet. Remember, all of these cars are the same class, so moving roughly the same speed, although if you're out in clean air, you're not having to worry about dodging somebody in front of you. You can probably do a little better. Yeah, Metroid Prime now clear of Dwarf Fortress, now solidly in that 4th and final transfer spot. And really making a run on Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed trying to move down the low line. Metroid Prime really got there first, so we might be seeing even a change of position for 3rd. A little further back, we have Spyro making a push. Yep, Spyro has now gotten around Dwarf Fortress. So with Metroid Prime now ahead of Assassin's Creed, we could start seeing Spyro try to get right back into the Pro Series after being relegated at the previous race. Yeah, Metroid Prime now into 3rd, and Spyro, it looks like, is going to move into 4th, taking that inside line and getting around Assassin's Creed. At the line, it does look like it is Spyro. now in 4th. So our top 4, still maintaining our front row of StarCraft and Batman Arkham at the end of lap 20 are still 1 and 2. They keep trading back and forth depending on the low line or the high line, what's doing better at the time. But Metroid Prime now into 3rd, Spyro into 4th, Dwarf Fortress coming back on the inside. So it was a good challenge for that last transfer spot. .22 laps complete. Dwarf Fortress has now gotten around Spyro, so move them up to the 4th spot, and now all of a sudden Crash Bandicoot is making a run, and Crash Bandicoot is around Spyro, or battling alongside Spyro, so those two are now battling for the main spot on the bubble. They'd be the one challenging for the transfer spot once they work it out amongst themselves. And at the conclusion of this lap, which Batman Arkham will lead, we now have 100 laps to go. 25 laps gone by so quickly. Batman Arkham finally clearing StarCraft and moves down to take the bottom line. Dwarf Fortress is now the first, taking the top line. And start to see lap traffic in the distance. If we move to Batman Arkham, let's go to cockpit view and see what that's starting to look like. You can see those first couple of machines about halfway through turn 1 as they cross the start-finish line, which on this track is not that much different. So in a few laps, do expect them to overlap. We will get to that when it happens. Right now, I want to move back and check on this spot for the transfer. Spyro and Crash Bandicoot are battling it out. Dwarf Fortress has gotten back by Metroid Prime, so Metroid Prime now is the final game in the transfer spot. I feel like these two running side by side is not really helping their cause. They're having to battle each other and are losing ground on those ahead of them. Let's get up here and we'll get on the cockpit view now as we are really starting to close in, just to see what lap traffic looks like from the driver's point of view. We really have to take this cautiously. They are in a large group, so it's very hard to just maneuver around. You've to some extent got to pick and choose and hope you get lucky. They are taking the top line now, might be clearing one game. Okay, as we move back now to the outside view. Batman Arkham around Perfect Dark. So Batman Arkham's got a little bit of separation now from the others. One lap car in between them. StarCraft, Dwarf Fortress, Metroid Prime looking to find their way around lap traffic. The high line looks to be the way to go right now, just because that's where the lap cars are not. And Metroid Prime still trying to be stubborn at the bottom, but we'll see. Dwarf Fortress trying to take the middle line, and that appears to have gotten them around StarCraft, at least for the time being. And moved Dwarf Fortress to second. Yeah, Dwarf Fortress running really strong here. Here, Batman Arkham now with several cars in between them. Let's take a few moves back here. We'll get There's StarCraft in third, Metroid Prime in fourth. Still maneuvering around this lap traffic. Now as you go backwards from there, Spyro has won the battle against Crash Bandicoot. So now it is up to Spyro to be chasing down fourth place Metroid Prime and is now pretty much there. Lap traffic playing its role in keeping everyone on their toes. It's kind of hard to just simply relax with all this with the lap traffic. And now Metroid Prime has gotten around StarCraft, and Spyro looks like they'll be able to use one of the lap cars as a pick and also get around StarCraft, move Spyro into the transfer spot, currently in fourth. StarCraft trying to fight back on the bottom, however, the lapped car is serving as a pick right now. And yeah, Spyro is now well clear of StarCraft. StarCraft's needing to make some moves if they're going to be able to get back into that transfer. Batman Arkham, Dwarf Fortress. There's Metroid Prime in third, Spyro just behind in fourth. StarCraft finally moved to the top side in an attempt to get back around the lapped car, but now has a gap until they can get back to Spyro in fourth. So Metroid Prime through on the lapped car. Spyro will now have to try to make work of the number 16 car of Wizardry. And StarCraft wants to see if they can make their way back up and challenge Spyro for that transfer. Let's get back to the leader, who might be changing here in just a moment. At the line, Dwarf Fortress has now taken over the lead from Batman Arkham. Dwarf Fortress, who started in the top four, fell back out of the top four at the start of the race, and then one by one has picked their way through each of these games and is now in first after the 50 lap mark. At the conclusion of this lap, we'll have 70 laps to go. 55 down, 70 to go. And Batman Arkham just cruising, but not really finding a great way to keep up with our new leader of Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress really seems to have found their element around this short track. Taking a look ahead from them, it looks like they're fairly single file in front, so if Dwarf Fortress can get in a rhythm of being able to pick off these lapped cars in due time, it looks like they'd be pretty hard to get around. Metroid Prime in third, trying to split lap traffic to catch up back up to Batman Arkham, but having a bit of a hard time doing that. Spyro on the top line, catching up now. It just kind of depends on which lapped car is faster. Who do you want to be behind? Or is somebody daring enough to take that middle line and split them? Spyro's definitely catching. Metroid Prime keeps looking like they're wanting to look up, but then just never quite really makes the definitive move to take the middle line. They are definitely running slightly higher, maybe not quite half a lane higher than their lapped car in front of them, but Spyro is starting to take a look down. So Metroid Prime looking up, Spyro looking down. concerned they're going to end up crashing into each other trying to get around this lap traffic. The benefactors just waiting to pick up the pieces are StarCraft and now Crash Bandicoot coming up very closely behind. We now have 65 laps complete. Let's just take a look through the field. So we'll start up with our leader, who's now Dwarf Fortress. So we'll just start with them, and we'll just start moving our way back through the field. So we have Dwarf Fortress, Lap Car, Portal, Batman Arkham in second, with the Lap Car Rain World. Lap Cars of Frostpunk and Animal Well, Metroid Prime running, showing fourth, Spyro running, showing third, but they're really just side by side. StarCraft in fifth, Kid Icarus a lap car, Crash Bandicoot in sixth, Warcraft in seventh is starting to challenge Crash Bandicoot. Wizardry is a lap car. Metroid is being shown in ninth. I think I missed eighth there. Yeah, eighth is Assassin's Creed. Metroid ninth. Wizardry the lap car. Lemmings in 10th. Token Memorial lap down. Wing Commander in 11th. Mercenaries 12th. Octopath Traveler in 13th. Perfect Dark a lap down in last place. Jet Force Gemini in 14th. Rock Band 15th. Dragon Quest 16th. Earthworm Jim 17th. Or 18th is that shown. Ace Attorney 19th. South Park 20th. There was somebody I missed in the middle of there. And then we're back around the Dwarf Fortress. Who's being shown in 17th? Who was that? Mario Golf in 17th. Yeah, Dwarf Fortress with a 2-second lead to Batman Arkham, and then Batman Arkham has a 4-second lead over Spyro. So really, these top two have split away. Like, they have really punched their ticket into the Pro Series at the 500 at Indianapolis. Whoa, I say that, but Dwarf Fortress getting a little sideways in the turn. 75 laps complete, 50 laps to go. See the distance between the two. Batman Arkham got a little bit of lap traffic to go through, but then moving our way back to third place Spyro. Yeah, there's quite the gap. I mean, that's roughly 1/3 of a lap difference between Batman Arkham in second, Spyro in third. Metroid Prime fourth, and then the transfer would be right now Crash Bandicoot is the one on the bubble. So part of the question right now is, what does Crash Bandicoot have for Metroid Prime? Metroid Prime, the white car on the bottom lane up ahead. That is the spot they're aiming for to move into the transfer position. Running the bottom line, completing lap 80. 45 laps to go. This event is just flying by. If it stays green, this will be over very quickly, it feels like. However, now with everybody moving through lap traffic and the urgency of getting around some lap traffic, I wouldn't count out the possibility of some shenanigans. Here's Spyro at the back of this large group of lap traffic. Let's find Batman Arkham, who's basically at the front of that group. So that's the distance between them. Looks like about 4 lap cars up to get to our leader, Dwarf Fortress. So here are now 85 laps complete. just see what it looks like from the leader's viewpoint. Wow, 2 more lap cars, and all of a sudden it gets a little clearer. However, you can see Dwarf Fortress having a little bit of trouble hanging on at times. There's twice I've noticed that they've slid through the turn and have to kind of steer into the slide. So Dwarf Fortress just in turn 1 in that red and white car. One car in between themselves and the leader. Looking up from Batman Arkham here in second. But at this point, the difference between first and second is really just, did you win the Challenger Series race or not? First or second, both get you into the Class D race. So Batman Arkham certainly would be happy with this second place finish. But now, let's move back and see things from Spyro's point of view. Spyro currently shown in 4th. Yeah, there's Spyro. And then Metroid Prime just ahead here, and starting down the backstretch, Spyro should just be just behind. Right, we're just behind now as we're coming out of turn 4. Metroid Prime here on the bottom. Once again, now this is for 3rd and 4th. Both of these spots would transfer. But now, moving back to 5th place, Crash Bandicoot. So if you see the white car and the yellow and black car up ahead, it's running side by side. That is the difference that Crash Bandicoot's looking at between them and between right now going to the back of the queue in the Challenger Series and racing at Indianapolis in just a couple weeks' time. Getting closer to Metroid, it appears. Metroid, I believe, got a little sideways in one of the turns, so it's now become a little closer between Crash Bandicoot and Metroid Prime. And if Metroid Prime down there is just ahead is enough to worry about, Metroid is just behind Crash Bandicoot. So, yeah, Crash Bandicoot currently in a Metroid sandwich. Or I guess really it's a Crash Bandicoot sandwich with Metroid bread. As here we come to finish lap 100. 100 laps complete, 25 laps to go. Oh! Car getting sideways just in front of our 5th place runner. Yeah, Perfect Dark getting a little sideways. Perfect Dark a lap down. Yeah, we're sticking with our 5th place runner, which has also 6th, 7th, 8th, just right there with them. StarCraft, Metroid, and Assassin's Creed. Because this is the group that really needs to chase down that 4th place runner. Top 4 right now, I think, doing just fine. Metroid going around the outside. Metroid must be taking over that 5th place spot. Yes, indeed. Now we might get into the weird part of this battle where Metroid will be fighting against Metroid Prime. However, I think the distance between Metroid and Metroid Prime right now is quite large. Let's take a look at the cockpit view to look ahead to see if we can find out where Metroid Prime is. Not in the immediate distance. Okay, going into turn 3 right now, middle of 3 and 4, which that is a considerable distance to cover with 107 laps complete. Only 18 laps to go. And these laps are clicking off pretty fast. Alright, let's get back to our leader, Dwarf Fortress, who right now has about a half-second lead over Batman Arkham. Batman Arkham was able to close up that gap a little bit. Distance them between them and Spyro. So a little bit, so it's about 3 seconds from Dwarf Fortress back to Spyro. All of them seem pretty solid. Metroid Prime is 3 seconds clear of Metroid, and that's where the cutoff between 4th and 5th place is, so it does seem like we have our top 4 that will be moving on to the next round, but huge mess of lapped cars right here in front of our leader, and we'll see if that plays any factor in slowing them down and allowing some others to catch up. If the same thing was happening in front of Metroid Prime, I might be saying a different story, but because it's our leader has some space to give, so really our leader just needs to kind of stand pat and make it to the end. And Dwarf Fortress is just really a dominant run, it seemed like today. Let's move back. Here's Batman Arkham on the bottom in the 14 car. Doing well, also just really needs to stay firm. Spyro's starting to catch up though. Spyro on the bottom line, so they're running the same line. There's one lapped car in between them of Mario Golf. But once again, if they stay here, they'll be just fine. 4th place, Metroid Prime. Now not too far behind Spyro. And once again, that's really all they need to maintain, because then, yeah, we're talking more than a straightaways distance between them and Metroid. And laps are winding down. We almost have only 5 laps to go. Take a look once more from the cockpit. Basically, looking to the back of that big gaggle of lap traffic, and really only has 5 laps to do it. And that just does seem like a Herculean task here. We're looking at Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime possibly can get Spyro by the end of this, but that really just depends on which lane the lap traffic goes, who's faster. Metroid Prime currently running the same line as Spyro, so you're not going to catch them in the same line. Get back to our TV view and move back to our leader. As we have 2 laps to go, Dwarf Fortress cruising to a victory. Once again, qualified the top 4, fell back at the start. White flag is out. They moved through one at a time, picked off the games that were in front of them. Now here at the end, they've got a commanding lead to wrap this up. And so, yeah, with that, Dwarf Fortress has won. Batman Arkham finishing 2nd, Spyro finishing 3rd, Metroid Prime finishing 4th. Wow, yeah, that was such a quick race. 125 laps ran in 28 minutes. Very, very fine race by all competitors. Take a look here through the final standings. We can see, as we go through those who did not transfer, Metroid, Crash Bandicoot, StarCraft, Assassin's Creed, Lemmings, Octopath Traveler finishing out your top 10. Wii Commander, Dragon Quest, Warcraft, Jet Force Gemini, Rock Band, Mercenaries, Ace Attorney, Mario Golf, Rain World, Earthworm Jim gets you down to 20th. And then the final 10, we have South Park, Rogue, Portal, Mario Tennis, Animal Well, Frostpunk Wizardry, Kid Icarus, Tokyo Mech Memorial, and Perfect Dark. And so with that, we'll be wrapping up our coverage. We look forward to seeing our top 4 later this month at the 500 Indianapolis, running in Class D. And once again, that'll be Dwarf Fortress, Batman Arkham, Spyro, and Metroid Prime. Just a couple more vehicles finishing out into the pits. And with that, we will call that a event. We'll see you for the Pro Series events coming up shortly. Bye-bye.